Jams, jams, jams. Picture books and jams. Welcome, everybody, to PBJamz. Music and picture books, what a perfect sandwich. Squish them all together, what a yummy snack. PBJamz, yummy books and music. PBJamz, reading, writing, teaching. PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time. PBJamz, songish books and bookish songs. Tips for music teachers, interviews and book reviews. A little singing and dancing. PBJamz, yummy books and music. PBJamz, reading, writing, teaching. PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time. PBJamz.
Good morning or afternoon, PBJamz peeps. We are so glad that you are here with us whenever you're joining us. We are here today with Melanie, and she's going to be talking about her book, Trumpet and Clarinet, and we're going to be finding out a little bit more about her journey and how all that happened, and a little bit more about the book. So thanks for joining us. And Melanie, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Tani, for having me. I'm so glad to be here to talk with you.
Such a fun time, and I have a personal connection with this book. As I was telling Melanie, she and I were chatting on Twitter, and I said, well, this is just the perfect book for me to talk about because I play trumpet and have played trumpet since 6th grade, and my husband plays clarinet, and he has played clarinet since 5th or 6th grade as well. So we kind of feel like this is our little book. So I'm for sure going to be adding this one to my shelves. But let's talk a little more, Melanie, about the musical connections in the book. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So this book, I'll hold it up for you, is all about instruments and specifically band instruments. So of course there's the musical connection that way. And it also teaches about classification of instruments, particularly brass and woodwinds. And it teaches parts of instruments too. So none of the sort of teaching of instrument names or sections is really like the primary purpose of the book, but it's kind of an incidental part of the book. And so it teaches, like, for example, that oboes have a double reed, whereas, clarinets have just one. And it also teaches, there's a scene where, you realize that trombone has a spit valve and and oboe has a cleaning rag. And so there are things like that embedded in the book, that little facts about instruments. And I also used a lot of onomatopoeia, words like toot, buzz, honking, purring, slinking. So I think of those as musical words as well. And I incorporated a lot of musical puns in here. So one of the fun things, if you have especially older students, I think like 3rd graders, maybe 4th graders, is have them, find the musical puns in the book. And that's really fun because we don't realize, I think, how many musical puns we use on a regular basis, like face the music, or I'm going to see if I can find one in here, or trumpet, you're a blast, someone's a blast, or toot your own horn, blow your own horn, that kind of thing. So we have so many musical idioms in our language that are really fun to share with kids, and kids know a lot of them already. And I almost forgot too that this book is an instrument in and of itself, because you can shake it.
Oh,
and it has in the spine, it has this rain stick embedded in it. So that was my editor's idea, was to make a book that's not only about music and musical instruments, but also about you can also actually use it as an instrument itself. So little fun.
Yeah, that is fabulous. I love that. And I also love that you mentioned in the book about about brass instruments having a spit valve. I was talking to Annie Lynn, she's a children's music maker. I don't know if you know her, but I was talking with her a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you play trumpet. Like, I'm going to put you on my list." And she was saying that she had a trombone player that had come to their studio to do a trombone part, and she said, he's like, "Do you have a bowl or something?" And she's like, yeah. And so she went and got a bowl, and so she came back and he emptied all of his spit into this bowl. She's like, "Oh, yuck." She like had no idea. And so it was so funny. I'm like, "Well, yeah, like, oh, that's got to go somewhere." So I love that you mentioned that. And when I play my trumpet for the kids, that's one of the things that we always have to talk about. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, you're blowing in there constantly, so it's collecting and it's got to go somewhere."
Yep.
So, funny. I love that. That is awesome. So tell us a little bit about what inspired this book and how it came about.
Yeah, well, I had been wanting for a while to write a friendship story picture book. And I had also been thinking about my own band experience and, how to incorporate that into a picture book. So those two things kind of came together in this story. I started thinking about, oh, it'd be nice if there was a friendship between a woodwind and a brass instrument. And I played the clarinet from about 4th grade on. And as an adult, I really haven't been playing it recently, but I did play through college and a little bit beyond. And I started thinking, well, I was remembering my days of being a clarinetist and sitting right in front of the trumpet section, and just like how they would blast, like I think woodwinds were always trying to play a little louder so we could, we could compete with the brass section. And so for a long time, at least through middle school and certainly, partly into high school, I think it was more about like hearing your section and like playing as loud as you could with your section. And then like eventually, something clicked and we realized, okay, it's about the music, and you all have to moderate your sound so you can hear the other sections of the band. And so I just thought about that, like what that meant metaphorically, for us as people, that we relate. We need to develop our individual skills and feel like we're part of a group and have an identity, but we also need to remember we're part of a bigger community and a bigger society, and we need to hear each other and learn that together we're actually better. So that was the message I started to think about, and I wanted to also make it a friendship story. So clarinet and trumpet start out as buddies, and then they get divided into these sort of groups, woodwinds versus brass, and there's a big face-off. And then after a while, they come to realize that they miss each other and that they want to make music together. That's the gist of the story. So really, when I say it's not so much about music, it's more about friendship. That's why. But of course, using musical instruments seemed like a good way to express that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and what an important message for today. And I love that. And you're exactly right. I think anytime you're part of an ensemble, you've worked really hard to develop your own personal skills. But then, yes, at some point it needs to click that, okay, it's not all about me and my section, whether you're talking about, instrumental music or whether you're talking about, choral music is the same. Like, it's not about soprano versus alto or tenor or bass. Everybody gets their chance to shine. But we need to remember that while we're waiting for our time to shine, we need to help the other groups to shine as brightly too. That's a great message, I think, especially for the world today.
Yeah.
And teaching kids that early is a great bonus. The earlier they can learn it, I think the more fulfilled and happy their life is going to be, if they can learn that. What is your favorite line, or maybe your favorite spread, your favorite part of the book?
Oh yeah. Well, I love John's illustrations. They're so much fun. So it's kind of hard to pick a favorite, but I really like, I'll turn to spread towards the middle. There it is. So this one I think is really fun because it's just really dynamic. They're all on stage, and so you get to see a stage setting and a curtain, and you know, there's this, it's sort of a fight scene, and you also see the instruments, you know, facing off in their different sections, and you know, trumpet hightailing it off the stage there. So that's kind of just fun because it's so funny and over the top. But let me think, there's another one I was thinking about too. Oh, this one is another, this one where they make up at the end is cute because Trumpet's mouthpiece falls, and the way John has drawn it, it sort of looks like his pants have fallen down. And so he's so surprised that he drops his mouthpiece, and Clarinet's got a spare for him. So it's just kind of a cute moment in the story that I really like when they are refinding their friendship again.
Love that.
And I also enjoy how John put Clarinet in glasses.
Yes. Yeah. Such cute personalities. Yeah, for sure. Love those illustrations. Yeah. What do you think was the hardest thing, Melanie, about writing this book? Like, was it the first draft, or was it revisions, or is there something else that just made it challenging?
I think the first draft actually came pretty quickly based on my own experience, having played in a band. And then the challenge was maybe mostly in the resolution, because I had, in my original version, I think I had them coming together because the music, they heard some music and it kind of reminded them of what they could be when they were playing together. But the editor wanted something a little more tangible for kids. Like, so, you know, we talked about another instrument in the group that might help them show their commonalities and then bring them back together. So working out that how we were going to end that was a little bit more challenging. And then the revisions, well, this part was really fun for me. It's just like looking up musical puns and just seeing how many more of them I could squeeze into the book without completely going over the top, you know, still maintaining the focus and the plot. So as far as revisions went, I think the biggest revision was that resolution part. When I originally submitted this manuscript to Houghton Mifflin after a conference, my editor, Chris Crones, said, you know, I like it, but there's this, you know, this resolution, we need to get that, you need to work on that. And so she asked me to revise and resubmit, which I did. And then after that, we worked on smaller edits, sort of, you know, line or word choices here and there. Mm-hmm. But yes, this manuscript overall went more smoothly than many of my manuscripts have gone. Sometimes it's a real struggle, and then other times a book kind of just flows out.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good indication that it's a good book. If it's a book of your heart and it flows out of that, then maybe that's the one that is just going to jump in and be successful right off the bat. That's good to hear for those of us out in the writing and querying trenches. So
yeah. And I mean, sometimes I have another book that's on submission that's also like a book of my heart that hasn't found a home yet, and hopefully it will, but it's still the process of writing it was important to me too.
Right.
So even sometimes those books don't get where you'd like them to, but they may end up one day becoming part of another book that you write, or they helped you find a theme that's important to you, and you want to go back and revisit that in another way. Right. So I always feel like each book is important in its own way, but I think you're right that there are some books that really speak to you as you're writing them, and they tend to come a little bit more easily, and you feel a little more hope when you send those to the world, because they do feel like they are your story in some way.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's exactly right what you said. I mean, like no book is ever wasted, even if it doesn't get published or if it doesn't garner interest, it still was important to you to write that and get it on the page. And you're right. Every book that we write changes us somehow, right? Like it makes us more aware, or it makes us, it gives us a theme that we want to focus on, or, a message that I think after a while, in the beginning when I started writing, I mean, I wear a lot of hats and I like a lot of stuff. And so I was kind of all over the map. But I think the longer I write, the more I realize who I am as a writer, and what
Yeah.
message I want to convey. And so I think every story we write for sure helps at least shape who we are as a writer.
Yeah, that's so well put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
What other things do you have upcoming that maybe, I know there's vague tweets and whatever, but what do you have coming that you can talk about? Do you have anything in the pipeline right now?
Yes, in August, I have a picture book called Battle of the Books coming out. That's with Little B. And James Ray Sanchez is going to illustrate that one. And I'm particularly excited about that because he also illustrated This Magical Musical Night, which is another wonderful book about musical instruments and being part of an orchestra. It's just lovely. It's Rhonda Gowler Green wrote that. And I think that maybe came out a couple of years ago, but it's one of my favorite musical picture books. So I'm happy to have James on board to illustrate Battle of the Books. And I have not yet held author copies in my hand, so I don't yet know exactly what the book will look like in print, but I've seen the art and the final art, so
Gotcha.
I'm excited for that. Yeah, and then the other things I'm working on are just other picture books I've got in the works, and I keep telling myself I'm going to write that middle grade book someday too, and so hopefully I will this year. That's on my goal list.
Gotcha. That takes a whole nother kind of level of bravery, doesn't it, to branch out into a new genre?
It does, because I think for me, especially during the pandemic, my concentration has been very sort of, I can work in little spurts of time.
Right.
And so picture books have been really great for me for that reason. But I feel like the middle grade maybe takes longer periods of focus. So we'll have to see how that goes when I'm retraining my brain to think that way.
Yeah, I have some ideas for middle grade, but I feel like I kind of want to get a handle on the picture books first before I delve in. And I know it's different for everybody. Like I have writer friends that are not yet published, and they're like, they have a YA that they're working on in a middle grade and a picture book. So I think it's different for everybody. But for me, I feel like I feel like I really want to get a handle on picture books first. And then I feel like I can maybe branch out into some other genres at that point. But
Yeah.
I applaud you for that. That's good. It's always good, I think, to spread out into other genres, to stretch yourself as a writer, as well as for the, lucrativeness of that as well. So
It gives your mind some creative flexibility too, to kind of move between works and rev up the creativity again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I've chatted with you about my questions. Is there anything, Melanie, that you would like for us to know about this book that we haven't talked about yet?
Let's see. I don't know if there are really. I know you mentioned sharing writing tips, and so I guess related to this book, I could say that one thing that's good to remember when you're writing picture books is to try to write in layers. And so this story is not just, a story about band instruments, but also a story about friendship, also a story about group dynamics as well, and about building community. And one of the things that I did to kind of add layers is just get the musical puns in there too, and the idiomatic language. So when you're thinking about writing picture books, just make sure you have a variety of layers And I was thinking about the book, Z is for Moose. And I don't know if you know that one, but that's really a concept book. It's teaching the alphabet, but it does so much more than that. It's also a friendship story. It's also a story about rivalry, and it's a story about a sacrifice that one of the characters makes for another character towards the end, and so it's just it's very rich. And I think these days picture books really have to work hard. They not only have a plot and interesting characters and an arc, but they also have, lyrical language, and they might also have a concept that they're exploring, like numbers or letters or something else. And so that's always a good thing. And usually on the first draft, you're focusing more on plot or character or something like that. And then later on, as you go through your many drafts, you can add in this lyrical language and maybe some puns and more humor. And so that's something that I like to give new writers advice on. And I guess the other advice I might give is write what makes you excited and happy. And even if the topic itself is not happy, or the topic is difficult, if you feel that spark when you're writing it of excitement, then go, follow that and make sure you write that book. And your audience may know this already, but I think joining critique groups is a great idea, and that helps you become a better editor. And I think for me, like once I worked enough on editing skills, it helped me get more distance on my own work. I could almost look at my own work more like a member of my critique group might, and sort of, stand back a bit from it. Yeah, and then I was willing to get rid of those lines that I really loved, but realized they're not working, so gotta let them go.
Yep, killing the darlings. That's always challenging. It's always hard. Killing the darlings. That's what we call it in the writing world, folks. Killing the darlings.
I told my daughter that. I was like, I'm killing my babies, and she's like, what? Like,
do I need to be worried?
Let me explain this to you.
Yeah, it's not what it sounds like, honey, honest. Oh, those are great tips. I know I listened to a phenomenal webinar with Kelly Dixterhouse from Ravenquill, and she talked about those layers, and she equated them with doorways, like doorways that you open for readers to come into your book. And that was a really great image that stayed with me. And I think that's excellent advice. It's definitely one of those things that I'm working on, is trying to add those layers in to our stories as we write. So yes, thank you for that, Melanie. Good stuff for the writers in the group. And you shared earlier some stuff for the teachers in the group as well. Lots of great teaching little nuggets for teachers to latch on to. And that's what we do as teachers. We take one little moment in a book and we just kind of expand that, and then we teach on that and we share that. And so it sounds like there's so many amazing little nuggets in this book that's going to be phenomenal for the music classroom, as well as for the regular classroom, for parents at home that are homeschooling or that have preschoolers. So much good stuff to love. Thank you. Clarinet and Trumpet.
I put on my website under resources, I also put some notes about how teachers or parents might use the book at home too. So everybody's welcome to go there. And I'm hoping to add a little video. I haven't done that yet, but I will try to do that sometime soon. Put a little video explaining some of the pages in there.
Love it. Yeah. And we'll link up all Melanie's information down below. So if you're tuning in for PBJamz, just check out below, and we're going to add more and more teaching tips. We're going to link up all of her cool information, and including those resources she has for you on the website, as well as where you can contact her via social media. And so thanks so much for joining us today for PBJamz. We appreciate it a lot, and hope we'll see you next time here on PBJamz. Thanks again, Melanie.
And Tawny, if you wanted, I think you mentioned doing a giveaway of the book. So yes, I want to let folks know that be happy to give a signed copy of the book
Perfect.
to however you choose your winners.
Perfect. And we'll link all that information up below as well. So thanks again for joining us, viewers. And Melanie, thanks again for being with us. It's been a wonderful chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tawny, for asking me. And thank you for all those folks who came to listen.
Yeah.
Jamming PBs all the time.